It's been a year and a half since we left the city for our 300-year-old property in the middle of nowhere, and since then 90% of our jobs have been outside dealing with the 10 acres of land here. The only things we've done inside have been converting the barn into a gym and workshop area. That turned out so well it gave us the confidence to have a go at decorating the small snug inside the main house, and we transformed that into a cool room for movie nights. But every room needs doing, and Jen was desperate to then start on the kitchen. The problem was she'd been quoted an astronomical amount of money to have it done professionally. We didn't think our DIY skills, which were non-existent before we moved here, would be up to the task of doing it ourselves. But as you're about to see, we had a go anyway and successfully transformed our kitchen. Here's how. So this is last autumn, and a summary of what Jen wanted to do in here is the red paint gone, the bench seat ripped out and the radiator replaced. All the light switches and electrical sockets replaced. Not sure about this larder and built-in fridge. The oven and hob unit gone, the cupboards moved around and the wall cupboards removed completely. The island was going to stay but be repainted, which would also apply to all the cupboard units that were staying too. This gas cooker to go and be replaced with a real wood-burning fire, the floor to be sanded, filled and re-lacquered. This unit here to be ripped out, probably. Not quite sure about that one up there. And whatever else Jen thought of as the project developed. I told her that sounded a massive project to do ourselves, and so it would have to wait until money and our skills were more abundant than they are currently. She agreed, and then when I spent a day back in the city visiting friends, she ripped down the old cupboards and sold them on Facebook Marketplace. At which point it became apparent the project was underway.
Okay, this wasn't the one to pick.
It also became apparent the project was going to be very hard work. Our previous kitchen had an abundance of open shelving, and that was a look that Jen wanted to recreate here, so one of the first jobs was to repair the wall where she'd removed the cupboards with a frightening degree of violence. On the other side of the room was that horrible red paint and more damage to the walls to patch up. And then while I was still getting over how fast she'd sold the kitchen cupboards, she then sold the cooker. With it gone, Jen set about cleaning hundreds of years of soot off the stonework. She tried a variety of techniques before deciding a bucket of water was probably most effective. Meanwhile, we had an electrician pop in for half a day to put some wiring in place for where sockets were going to end up and an extractor hood for a new gas hob. And then things improved dramatically because Jen said I'd be allowed to remove this ugly larder and fridge unit and replace it with a proper American style fridge freezer, complete with ice maker. Before she could change her mind, I ripped it all apart and ordered a unit for next day delivery. When it arrived, we then realised it was way too big for the room, but more on that in a moment. In the meantime, this situation. Jen hated this window box seat and it seemed to serve no other purpose than gather cobwebs, so she ripped it out and then discovered there was no flooring underneath it. So to cheer herself up, she had me cap off both radiators and rip them off the wall. Now, remember how that fridge freezer didn't fit properly? Well, I cut a hole in the wall so it would. Actually, my kid cut the hole in the wall. He was visiting for a couple of days and he's never cut holes in walls before, so I thought it'd be quite exciting for him. Which in terms of time elapsed brings us to about halfway, but still with a staggering amount to do. It feels like we're sort of halfway through this project in a way, so a good time for a bit of an update. The cupboard that was in here has been ripped out. We've got a small little unit that's going to go back in here with the iMac on. Obviously the gas cooker has long since gone. The wood burner's in there. Our light has been installed inside the old bread oven. And then the big jobs are happening down here. New worktop has arrived, solid oak worktop. It's not going to be as long as this one because this one comes too close to the log burner and gets too hot. So the new worktop's going to stop short. There'll be a gap in the end for a waste bin or something. We're doing tile back on here for the splashback. Making some changes here, but we're not entirely sure exactly what yet, but basically the sink is going to get moved along a little bit because the biggest change is that here, where there is currently an induction hob and oven, that's going. Instead, the gas hob is going in here. This set of drawers is moving across, and in here is a new tower unit that would include a new oven. The other thing that's happening with the carcasses is that they are all being resprayed. All the doors are being resprayed because they're in actually really good condition. It's a really good quality wood. We just don't like the colour. So they're being resprayed, new handles and stuff are all going to get fitted as well. Obviously a new hood to go up here for sucking out the fumes on the gas hob. The unit that used to sit above here just had a filter inside it and just extracted as best it could, but blew the air back into the room. That's going to be an external extraction over there. Oh, one other thing. The door. I'm still ducking as I walk under this door. Since we moved in, I would consistently bang my head on this door. I'm 6'6". I'm guessing this door is probably somewhere around 6 foot. I banged my head on there, and then even worse was this one. It sat down here somewhere. It was set up for hobbits. This is a 6'8" door frame, man size. Oh, and the radiator's come off the wall because a new radiator is going on here. Tall one, quite a cool looking one. Yeah, and then the next week or so, all the big stuff, all the carpentry work starts happening. So in case you missed that, yes, the new log burner got installed, but it was done over Christmas when we were incredibly busy, so aside from a couple of Instagram reels, there was no actual footage of it. But it certainly got used, because at this stage we had nothing else to cook on. Right, if ever there was a moment to back out this project, it has now just passed. Next step is to take all the drawer fronts off, all the cupboard doors off, because they're off to the guy that's painting them in a couple of days' time. Then rip the worktop off, take the oven out, take the cooker out. Yeah, it's all happening. The decision to get the doors all resprayed turned out to be a brilliant one. There was nothing actually wrong with the quality of them, we just didn't like the colour. And actually the island was a different colour to everything else, so it made sure that everything matched going forwards. Once we had all the doors and drawer fronts off, it was time to rip the oven out and start moving things around. So this unit got moved across, everything got lined up properly with a laser, and then the worktop got ripped off. Then I got fed up with working in the dark, so as Jen had painted the ceiling and the upper sections of the walls, I figured I could start putting some of the new lights up. Right, so the lights are up, apart from this one, because there are a bunch of wires coming out of there, because it's power coming in and then going off to the others, and the light that's got to go into it is this little spotlight, and there's simply no room to fit all those wires. So time to add Master Carpenter to my list of new skills, at which point it might be worth mentioning that if you're wondering how we know how to do the things that we're doing here, we just watch YouTube and figure it out. Clearly there have been a couple of occasions where we needed to call in an electrician or a plumber to finish off a job that we couldn't quite manage ourselves, but 99% of stuff we were able to just get done. Not only did it obviously keep the cost down, it also meant we were able to work on things to our own timescale, and added a degree of satisfaction to the whole project that wouldn't have been achieved otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to go. Go.
Well, that's bright in here.
So now with sufficient light to see what I'm doing, time to cut the old sink pipework out and rip the remaining countertop off. Because a lot's about to happen here. This cupboard on the end is going to get removed and thrown away because it gets too hot next to the fireplace. This dishwasher is going because it's broken and useless and getting replaced by a new one that's going to go in this position here because the under sink cupboard is going to get moved across to here instead. When that's all done, it will look like this. So the new dishwasher has been put into position and the plumber's popped in to move the pipework along so that the new sink can go into its new spot above it. And the new worktops have arrived as well. Jen's oiled these in preparation for the carpenter. The next day I then took the old dishwasher to the tip while the carpenter turned up and did his thing.
The worktops have been cut and are now ready to fit. They are going to get bolted down in the next couple of days. In the meantime, the sink, the dishwasher and the cooker are all scheduled to arrive tomorrow. So today's job is to oil the worktop and to continue oiling the shelves ready for them to go up.
So as the shelves went on the wall and the hob got fitted into the worktop, we figured we should probably put the extractor unit up to work out what space was available for the remaining shelves. Right, the project that never ends is still not ended. What has happened over the last week, everything just takes so long. The sink has now been installed properly, hasn't been plumbed in yet though. The worktop has been installed properly. The carpenter came back, fitted that properly, so that's now solid. Joined it to the other piece, obviously. The electrician came in and wired up the hob. That's now sparking away. The electrics for the appliance tower have been installed. So we've now got isolation switch for the oven, a regular plug socket there for the microwave, which is plugged into it already, and then those are two in the middle isolation points for the warming drawer and the fridge, which are going all the way down underneath there. I don't even know if you can see under there, but there should be under there somewhere a floating socket. The idea being that we can then plug those units in under there and then turn them off and on from the cupboard up there. Now that's done, that unit can go back against the wall, the appliances can go in it. What's happening today is quite a big jump forward though. The doors are coming back. The guy took them away, he's painted them, he's going to bring them back. I'm going to fit them back on, he's just going to drop them off. But what he is doing is painting now the island. So by the end of today, we should have island painted, the doors can be refitted. We're kind of actually moving forwards. It doesn't feel like it all the time. Oh, and the other thing that's happened, Jen has stained the shelves a bit darker. They're pine, they now match the oak worktop more closely. They just need to be fitted down later as well. So hopefully big jump forward coming up. So the island that used to be this colour got sprayed to look this colour, and yes, the spray paint does go all over the floor, but don't worry, the floor's getting sanded, so that is not a problem. The sink has now been plumbed in. I've just plumbed the dishwasher in as well. Taps have been fitted and work. So today's job is to put the doors back on the cupboards. So new handles fitted to everything, and then all the drawer and cupboard doors put back into place. And in case you're wondering how we have a gas hob when the only main service supplied to this house is electricity, we have large gas tanks that are stored outside the property. Right, it's an exciting day because this evening's job is to put the tower together. The shelves that it's come with are in the wrong place, so they need to be moved around. And obviously the whole thing needs to be fitted to the wall first before we even get there. It's got the feeling of being one of those jobs that's either going to be way easier than I think it might be, or way harder. Right, so the bottom drawer is in. What we now need to do is put in pretty much the most important shelf, because it's the one that holds all the appliances. Now the shelf, as it's designed, has these stupid little bracket things in it, but getting those repositioned inside, because there's no holes in there existing, would be too much like hard work. So instead, I'm just going to put some nice simple L brackets for the shelf to sit on, because you won't see those in there once the shelf is in. And so over the next 4 hours, using a lot of measuring and even more guesswork, we installed the warming drawer, the oven, and then the microwave on top. And bizarrely, it all seemed to line up okay. Right, last three things we're going to get done today. First of all, the freezer currently plugs in where the plug's exposed. We're going to hide that. I've already drilled a hole through to come out behind and underneath here. So you need to cut the plug off of there. Step 2 is to put the side panel on here, which will hopefully be quite straightforward. You need to take a little bit off the bottom, but that's not a big deal. And then screw these units into the frame, so when Jen's cooking later, that will fall out. And so the power cable got hidden through the wall, as did the water feed that goes into the back of the freezer to supply the ice straw, and then the side panel got fitted to finish the whole lot off. Right, not much happening today. All that's happened so far is some stuff's gone on the shelves. We've discovered that the old pipe, the waste pipe for the sink, which you'll remember used to be here, means that the dishwasher, which we put the door on, can't slide back far enough because it bangs into the waste pipe. So temporarily the dishwasher has been installed sitting out a couple of inches. And so while I did some simple jobs, Jen started doing a really hard one. Remember the missing floor from underneath the window box seat? Well, Jen found some floor for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and it came in the form of a bin bag full of individual pieces that she needed to cut to size and then fit like a giant boring jigsaw puzzle. I wanted nothing to do with that, so instead used my new master carpenter skills to build a top section to go above the freezer. I then fitted this pots and pans rack thing to the ceiling before a proper tradesman turned up and drilled the hole through the wall for the extractor fan hood. I then fitted all the plumbing for that myself while Jen went off to hire a floor sander. And you may have noticed that the tiles have been done above the worktop as a splashback. That was not done by ourselves. We did consider it, but it turned out that the carpenter who fitted our worktop for us was also a tiler. Tiling had the feeling of being one of those jobs that no matter how many times you watch it on YouTube, you can't beat practice. And we didn't really have time for practice. We're now in a weird place because we're sort of doing some finishing touches while there's still a couple of big jobs to do. So for example, we've got some pictures gone up on the wall, mirrors gone up on the wall, but the floor still needs sanding, which is today's job. We've done it already in the snug that we filmed and put up on YouTube, so you might have seen that. The process is pretty simple. We sand the existing floor back a couple of times with different grades of grit. Then we fill in the gaps between the parquet flooring slabs. We then sand that filler back and then we lacquer it. That's basically the gist. We're also doing it in the dark at the moment because we've had some electrical issues. That nightmare situation there, and not much better, the one over here, has been caused by Jen purchasing, with the best intentions, these very fancy flicky switchy light things that are supposed to then dim the various lights, but they don't really work as intended. They have these little module things on the back here. Basically, they're designed to go into a new build house. The idea is that you have plenty of room in the cavity walls to put those little modules in. What they're not designed to do is to go into 300-year-old stone walls where the wiring's already installed. So we've tried to sort of bodge it and it's resulted in a mess. Last night one light stopped working, trying to fiddle with it, and now only one light does work, which is delightful. So we're about to set up a big studio light so we can see what we're doing for the floor, and a new electrician, who's hopefully going to be a bit more sensible, is going to come and advise us what to do on this later on today. So with the light installed, we can now get onto the floor, which is not only going to be the floor in the kitchen, but we're also going to do the floor in the hallway at the same time, which will allow us to join it to the snug, which we've already done. And this was a section that we really weren't sure about, the part where Jen had repaired the floor herself. The aim here was to get a seamless blend between the old bit and the new bit. That did seem rather optimistic though. Undeterred, Jen crossed her fingers and cracked on. She then moved into the hallway and ripped the bag open, throwing sawdust everywhere. Nice work. Right, remember the dishwasher situation? So the plumber has just turned up and fixed that, which means hopefully now the dishwasher can go back into the space where it's supposed to be. So while I refitted the dishwasher, Jen completed the sanding of the floor. The next step was to then take some of the sawdust, mix it with a glue type product to make a gluey type floor thing, and spread it everywhere into the gaps. It actually looked quite fun, so I decided to have a go as well. And after 5 minutes decided it was incredibly tedious and wished I'd never bothered starting. And so I let Jen finish off the floor while I started fitting the new electrical sockets she'd bought to replace the old ones. And the good news on the floor was that as she began the final layer of sanding, it looked like the new section of floor might turn out to look okay. We wouldn't really know until the final stage had been completed, which was to apply a lacquer coat. That actually looked quite fun, so I decided to have a go myself. Within 3 minutes I realised it wasn't fun at all, but the new section of flooring was looking absolutely amazing. There was simply no way of telling any difference between the new section and the old section. The following day I slapped on some new skirting board and that was job done. In fact, everything was pretty much job done. The kickboards went back underneath the cupboard units. The new skirting board got a coat of paint. By the way, that's the new radiator that we forgot to film getting fitted ages ago. And then Jen's new bench arrived. Okay, the arrival of Jen's little bench almost signifies the end of this entire project. We are pretty much done. Sparky comes in a couple of days to fix the electrics on there. Oh, Jen still needs to paint that black. Bit of door frame paint still being done. And another job for the Sparky. But other than that, it's largely done. In fact, I think the next filming we do is to reveal the completed project. And that is it. At no point during the entire project did I really know what it was supposed to end up looking like, but Jen did. This is her vision, and it's turned out a pretty good one. We love the mix of things like the original features, the fireplace that's obviously been here since the house was built, with then more modern additions like the flooring, although in a house like this, modern still means about 100 years old, and then with genuinely modern, up-to-date niceties like the coffee machine and the tower unit and the fridge freezer. And the removal of the cupboards that I thought was an insane idea actually turned out to be brilliant. It's much more open and light and airy in here. And talking of being airy, now that we have the log fire that draws a huge amount of air through when it's lit, and the extractor unit that obviously extracts properly through the wall, we have superb airflow in the room, which means we have none of the humidity and damp issues that this room used to suffer from. Had we paid a kitchen company to do it for us, we'd certainly had it done a lot quicker, but I'm not sure we'd have ended up with anything better. And as a bonus, we have learned a load of new skills on the way, which means we can now apply those to the next project. What is that going to be? I have no idea. I guess I just wait for Jen to rip something else apart.